Hello, this is Daryl Stern, your digital marketing Jedi, and this is a really, really amazing LinkedIn Live that we're going to have here because this LinkedIn Live is 30 years in the making. 30 years ago, I went to college at Drew University as a theater major, and so did, drumroll please, Damon DeMarco. So we've known each other for 30 years. We finally figured out to get together on this thing called, is it called the Interwebs? Something with the interwebs.
The inner tubes. The
inner tubes. We were actually the first class to get laptops. We had Zenith laptops with 6K. I don't know what it was. We had one floppy disk, and that was it. That could.
I had two.
You had two. Wow. Then you got the Jumbo Deluxe, or it was like. Deluxe. It was like, okay, anyway, to bring us fast forward, Damon and I were both theater people. I went off and continued to write some stuff, but kind of my writing went secondary to learning this HTML, and now I run the fastest moving video marketing agency on the planet. And Damon once kept writing and has been writing books and novels and screenplays and stage plays and all of this for the past 3 decades. And one of the things that he loves to talk about is how to get a plan together to actually finish your writing project. Now, I've had my second book, in the Google Drive for, I don't know, years, but Damon today is going to tell us about that. And I noticed that we have Lisa Brandsdorf, we have some Drew people, but we also have some authors here. And Damon's going to go in depth as to how he's written so many books. First off, how many books have you written, published?
Officially or unofficially?
Unofficially.
Okay, because the reason I ask is because I make a great living as a ghostwriter. And so a lot of the books that I've written, actually the majority of the books that I've written, you'll never know about because my name is not on them. And the NDA that I signed says that I can't talk about them, except in the broadest possible terms.
Wow.
So I would say at this point, 40 or 50 books at this point.
Holy mackerel. Take us through a bit before we get into this plan of how you finish these books so efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
How is this writing business? In other words, how have you met these people to get, the opportunity to write their books? Is it random? Is it networking? Are you getting recommended, or do you have an agent? Like, how does this working that you get these jobs?
The short answer, Daryl, is all the above. When you've been doing it I've been doing it for like 25 years. So I work with agencies. Sometimes a publisher will come to me directly and they'll say, listen, we have this individual who really, really, really needs help on their book. We've already advanced them a large degree of money and this is not working out well. So could you please step in? Sometimes I'll meet people through the course of my daily interactions, because I'm not just a writer, I do other things with my life. And some of these people are extremely successful and extremely smart. Mm-hmm. And so for whatever reason, they want to develop a book that sometimes, maybe they're codifying their legacy and they want to give it to their family, or sometimes they're looking for a mainstream publishing contract, or sometimes they're looking for an ebook or, with a physical book component that's going to buttress their online presence. All of these are fair games. And also I should tell you that screenplays fall into that category. I'm frequently hired to do either doctoring on screenplays or to write it from the ground up. I also write stage plays, although in that case, I've never been called in to doctor somebody's stage play. Mm-hmm. That's generally a solo kind of thing where it's just me doing it and I give it out to theaters and they produce it. Short answer to your question, all of those and many more that I won't go into.
So I just got an alert from LinkedIn. You were the first person ever on a live or otherwise or on a post to use the word buttress. This has not been said since 1875. They're lighting up. The alerts and everything are lighting up. You're getting the award for the first person to use that word, even in spoken English since the 1800s. So let's get into it. People are here and some authors are here because you are going to teach us how to finish it. Just get this book done, wrap it in a package, finish these chapters and all that. So I'm going to leave the stage to you, and you're going to take us through how do we do this? How do we make it so that, we're getting this done? If we are an author, we want to work as an author. We can't be sitting there going, sorry, buddy, I still haven't, found the inspiration yet. This is not an option. And I remember talking to you years ago, and I said, how do you write? How do you just do it every day? And you'd go, it's my job. I have to do it. That's it. But go ahead and take the stage, Damon, and teach us how you finish it already.
Sure. Well, there are two primary things that I like to tell people. And the first one is your attitude toward the writing has to be adjusted in many cases. A lot of the writers that I work with when I do coaching work, and I do a lot of that online these days, they have an attitude toward writing that is very, very precious. And it gets in the way of the work being completed because they're second guessing themselves, they're tripping over themselves. At the end of the day, what I would say every artist, every craftsperson has to do is give themselves the permission to be bad at what they do. And that may sound very antithetical, very paradoxical right off the bat, but the truth is they're not going to be bad at it. Because in the first place, anybody who puts the time into one of these endeavors is doing so because they want it to be the best it can be. So there's going to be a certain level of quality that's always going to be brought to the work, regardless of what the circumstances are. The second thing about that is that it's writing. It's like filmmaking. You can do different takes, right? Frequently, I'll wake up on a Monday morning, I'll get, 3,000 or 4,000 words done. I'll get it done. I'll go about being a parent. I'll go about, taking care of stuff around the apartments or wherever I am. And then I'll come back to it Tuesday morning and I'll go, who wrote this crap? It's awful. And that's my prerogative because it is a work in progress. So the first thing that I always tell people is that you have to give yourself the permission to be bad at what you do. It's far better to get something bad down and then go back later on and ask yourself, how could it be better, than it is to look at that blank page and be hypnotized by it like a, mongoose in front of a cobra or whatever, and say, oh my God, where am I going with this? Where am I going with this? Where am I going with this? Don't worry about it. Get something down. And then later on, you put a different hat on. It's called an editing hat. And you look at it and you say, that's not at all what I wanted to say. But what I did want to say is this. And then you begin to work from there. It's far easier to edit than it is to write. I hate writing, but I love editing. So once you get those two straight in your head, things start to straighten out a little bit more. The second way that, and this is what I teach, is you have to know what you're doing. What do I mean by that? Many writers, and I used to be one of them, have an idea in their head about some kind of story. And so what they do is they get very, very inspired and they get their typewriter in front of them and they light out immediately and they start writing stuff down. And that's very, very premature. You cannot do that because what will happen is even if your inspiration is fantastic, it's just not going to run the tank. It's not going to drive the car very far. You're going to run out of gas after a while, and you're not going to know where you are. So the analogy that I use most often is that if you're going to build your dream house, okay, I want you to close your eyes for a second. I want you to really, really think about it. I know what mine is. I've had it in my mind for a very, very long time. If you're going to build your dream house, what makes more sense to you as a way to proceed? Should you run out to Home Depot with $2.5 million and just spend all that money on lumber and tools and electrical supplies and plumbing and bring it all back to the site where you want to start building and just start hammering stuff together? Does that make sense to you? I don't think so, because what's going to happen is you're not going to know what you're doing. You're going to get a couple of sticks built or something, I don't know. But eventually you're not going to have a plan. You're going to run into the wall and you're going to say, what am I doing here? So that's not the way you should proceed. If you want to build your dream house, you should start with a blueprint. You should start developing that blueprint. You should develop the ideas and you should develop the themes and you should develop the premise and you should develop the characters. You should know everything about them before you do the first lick of what most people consider to be writing. And this is what I teach in my online workshops and in my online groups. I teach people how to break stories. And breaking a story is essentially developing the blueprint for one. Once you have the blueprint in mind, and you've really kind of meticulously gone through and you know every detail about what you need to do, and you've worked all that stuff out in advance, the writing of it is very, very simple. I've frequently written books in a month. And that's usually, taking a leisurely stroll through the book and just kind of going through it and just going, it's as simple as going from point A to point B to point C, D, E, F, G, H, I, so long as you've already mapped out where those points are going to be in the story. If you don't have that roadmap, if you haven't done any of that work, you're going to get lost. And that's where the majority of writers that I deal with fail over and over and over again. And it can be crippling, it really can, because if you have any writing talent whatsoever and you really want to tell stories for a living and that gets you up in the morning, well, it's like kryptonite. You wake up and you're ready to save the world like Superman, but then somebody shows you a little green rock, and that's your lack of preparation. And suddenly all of your strength goes out the window. Technique is everything. And that's basically what I teach.
Super awesome and amazing. So, as Damon and I have been back together again, the dynamic duo, I said to Damon, hey, do you teach this online? Do you have online courses and programs and things like that? And Damon's been doing all kinds of teaching of this stuff for decades, but he didn't really have a platform or a landing page or anything like that, to kind of sell this. So in like one session, we said, okay, Damon, this is what we need to do. So we have actually launched Damon's first, online group program called Finish It already.
Yeah,
so I'm going to put the link to that in there. And I'm also going to put the special Zoom that you are doing tonight, or if you guys want to hop on and just say hi to Damon or whatever, and also talk, if you're authors out there and you want to hop on, register for that, because that's tonight. And if you want to join a group where you're going to have Damon holding you accountable, you'll be able to say, okay, I'm stuck in this part, finish it already. Here's my next question. The biggest thing that we talk about is like sometimes like writer's block, or let's say not just, we go two routes. Either the motivation, I just don't feel like giving a today, right? Like I just don't feel it. I don't feel creative and all that. Or I'm really am just like, you're saying that if you have the plan, you can get stuck in it. You don't get stuck, but also you can still get stuck. You can have the plan and still run yourself into a cul-de-sac and be like, like I'm doing loops here. So, two questions on top of each other. How do you just discipline yourself, right? To just make sure that you have these things, right? Mm-hmm. This time, and you're going to write. How do you create the environment to do that? And then B, yes, you get stuck too, right? Mm-hmm. How do you walk away from it, or what do you do? Those are my two questions.
Well, okay. The first thing that usually holds me accountable is the paycheck. I get paid a lot to do what I do, and I like that. And it allows me to live the kind of life that I enjoy. It allows me to be the kind of parent that I enjoy being. It allows me to be the kind of artist that I enjoy being, and it doesn't take up all of my day, which means that I can fill my day with other projects. So I have a lot at stake is basically the thing that keeps me going. If I also have a reputation. So what happens is, if an agency hires, like I just finished something for an agency like Friday, actually. And so what happens is they said, well, we need the draft now. Well, it's my job. That's why they're paying me to hit that draft. It's as simple as that. So the client is on the line. My reputation is on the line. My relationship with the agency is on the line. Their relationship with the publisher is on the line. It's never about me and the writing so much as it is about the entire ecosystem, which is related to me doing my job. I play my part in it. That way everybody else becomes successful and they play their parts in it. And I love the ecosystem that I'm a part of, so I would never do anything to send out bad ripples, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So there's the fiduciary, I'll call it, responsibility of writing for a living. I have to hit these benchmarks. The other thing that you mentioned is kind of like the spiritual component of it. Do I get tired sometimes? Of course I get tired, just like everybody else, You go to your job one day and for some reason you're just not into it, You stayed up late the night before, or you've got a relative who's sick, or you've got a relationship problem, or your child is, I've got a sore throat. All of these things contribute to kind of knocking you a little bit off your game. Well, the job of any professional is to show up for work, period. And when I show up for work, I block the time out. And come hell or high water, unless the roof collapses or somebody really gets into trouble, there's an ambulance involved, I get the job done. And again, it kind of goes back to I don't judge the work while I'm doing it. That's not a good thing to do. If you're the kind of writer who says, well, I'm going to write one sentence and then I'm just going to sit there and I'm going to study it, I'm going to perseverate over it. No, you don't want to do any of that stuff. Just get the sentences out. Set yourself a word count if that works for you. I don't have to do it at this point, but I mean, if that works for you, keep it low enough so that you'll satisfy that word count time and time again. 500 words. It's actually not a lot. And the more you do it, you can build up that quantity as you go. It's like, what do you call it? Exercising in a gym. First, you lift 15 pounds, then you lift 17 pounds, then you lift 20 pounds, then you lift 25 pounds. Well, after a while, it's not going to feel very taxing for you to do 2,000 words or 2,500 words or 3,000 words. So those are the ways that I try to keep on track. It's actually not hard to do. It's a habit like anything else, right?
Super cool and awesome. So I teach that just as an actor has a motivation, an actor will ask the director, what is my motivation in saying this line? I say that everything in marketing, because we've done 7,000 videos, in my agency, that every video has an intention. In other words, how do I want them to feel? What do I want them to do? I have some kind of I have something I intention before I start the project.
Yeah.
Do you get this in by chapter, by paragraph, by sentence?
That's a great question. No, that's a fantastic question.
Yeah.
The intention behind any written story, okay, and when I say story, you're going to hear me use the word story a lot, because I don't care, frankly, what you're writing. It could be a novel, it could be a screenplay, it could be a stage play. It doesn't matter. Behind every one of those is story. And so, yes, there are things to learn about writing a screenplay, about writing a stage play, about writing a novel that are very peculiar to those particular art forms. But behind each one of them is this kind of superstructure, which I call story. And once you learn story, it's very easy to translate it into anything. And that also goes for corporate work, speech writing, B2B copy, marketing. I've done all that as well. Once you have the story down, the story is key. Everything else is ancillary. And so, what was your question again? What was it? You said, the theme, right.
I'm coming back. Hold on. So what I was asking is, do you know, do you know the end of the chapter before you start the beginning of it? Do you know the end?
Yes, but
you know what I'm saying? So we're landing it to this is the ending.
But to go back to your original question, because it just clicked into my head, the intention behind a work, you mentioned this thing called an intention, is what I call a theme. And it's very, very, very important to develop a theme for your work, because the theme is essentially the compass needle pointing you in the direction that story is going to go. And this is especially never more important than when you're actually doing the plotting for a story, because the theme will always keep you moving in the proper direction. Now, let me give you an example. A movie or a story that everybody knows is Rocky, right? The Sylvester Stallone thing with the boxer, came out in like the 70s. What is the theme of that story? It's very simple and everybody knows it. It's a time-honored theme. And if I were to sum it up in one sentence, and I'm doing this extemporaneously, it would be little guy, low guy on the totem pole, works really hard, has faith in himself, and overcomes the big guy. That's it. I mean, if you had to summarize that in a couple of words, it's the underdog can win if he works really hard, right? If you know that going in, and I'm pretty sure that Sylvester Stallone did when he wrote that movie, he was the writer as well as the star, you know, as you're trying to plot the events of that story, basically where they have to angle toward. Moreover, you know what the main character, your protagonist, is trying to achieve. And so the intention of your work is going to stay very, very focused. And that way what happens is, as you're going down this focused thematic path, obstacles will come up, I call them calamities. Other writers call them hurdles. Basically, they're challenges to the protagonist, and they say, well, wait a minute, how bad do you want it, kid? Because if you really want it bad, I'm going to throw this first obstacle at you, and let's see how you do. You went around that. Okay. How about this second obstacle? Oh, okay, you went around that one too. How about this third obstacle, which is really going to play to your deepest flaws? You did well with that. Okay, well, now we come to the grand finale where you have to put all these things together. Okay. So theme is everything. Once you land on theme, then you can develop character, then you can develop premise, then you can develop plot, and you can start putting it all in together into what I teach, which is doing an outline or a treatment. That's kind of the film industry term for it. For an outline is called a treatment. And what you're essentially developing is a document that's going to run anywhere from 3 to 30 pages, depending on how much time you want to spend on it. And once you have that template in order, that's your story. You know the story backwards and forwards. It's like concentrated story. Just add water, meaning prose, and it explodes into a really, really good piece of art. Does that answer your question?
It most certainly does. So, to finish it already, I think the greatest answer is to maybe seek help from others. In other words, if you really are stuck, if you really don't have these, I mean, you've done this for decades, but still, even you'll admit you get stuck. The best thing to do is to have someone around to bounce some ideas off of, to say, hey, whatever, I'm
Where do you think I learned all this stuff from? I learned it by working with other writers and some really great actors and some excellent producers and some fantastic directors, all of whom, is it who or whom? I'll fix it later. All of these people, little by little, gave me little pieces of this mosaic. And some of them knew all, if not more than what I know right now. And some of them didn't know what they knew at the time, but they had a very, very good instinct for it. You learn just like in any other profession as you go, and you develop your expertise as you go. And the challenges that seem extremely large for you 3 or 5 years ago now seem like, well, that's just simple. I just write a sentence on this, right? So, yeah, I learned all of my craft from the people that I've been very fortunate to work with for about 30 years now.
That's awesome. So I put the links to join Damon tonight. I'm going to teach Damon after this how he can find this event and keep sharing it, because obviously it's now a post here, it streams, and you can go right back and watch it. But I will sum up with this. If you are if you need to buttress the calamities, which are 2 words that haven't been uttered, I think calamities was 1911 was the last time anyone said calamities. If you want to buttress the calamity of trying to get your book done already, Damon is the person to do it. And he's got a whole other bags and bags of these 1875 to 1910 terms that are just going to, they're going to crack you up. They're going to make you laugh, and they're going to get you to finish it already.
Agglomerization? Is that a word?
Oh, God, here we go.
Concatenate?
David, you're the best. Okay. We're going to go. We're going to be back. We're going to do more of these. I'm teaching Damon how to do this on his own. I'm teaching him how to get out on this thing called LinkedIn. So we'll be back.
You're fun. I want to do with you. I enjoy that.
Well, we'll do. All right. Well, then we'll do them together. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to learn more words from 1876. All right. I'll see you later, guys. And you click on the links and join Damon. And I'm going to screen share with him right now. And